In the summer of 2019, a teenage girl's grisly murder went viral after her killer posted pictures of her bloody and lifeless body all over social media. While many of the people who were unlucky enough to see the violent images were left in both shock and horror, others used those photos for their own personal gain, sharing them all over the internet in hopes of gaining followers and likes. They were enjoying the internet clout that they received. It's hard to comprehend, but there were even disgusting individuals who sent the graphic photos of 17-year-old Bianca Devins to her own family members, long before the body had even been located by police. But the trauma of losing Bianca was only made worse in the months following her death, as her family faced a tide of inhumanity from vicious online trolls who relentlessly sent them the sickening photos along with hateful messages blaming Bianca for what had happened to her. Join me in this next episode. We're going to be talking about the violent murder of Bianca Devins. All right, guys, thanks for joining me for another episode. This one is not going to be a very enjoyable one, not that a lot of them really are, but I think this is an important case. It's something that happened so recently, and for the family, it's ongoing, and I really wanted to bring some more awareness to what is actually happening and what did happen, especially as this is the first Sunday of October. And if you didn't already know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I wanted to make sure that, throughout this month, I know it's spooky season and all, but the first few weeks of this month, I really want to touch on some domestic violence cases and really raise awareness to that, because I know that there's probably so many listeners out there as well who have gone through domestic violence episodes and situations and experiences themselves, as have I. And it's something that, it can be triggering for some. So I just wanted to put that out there. Trigger warnings for domestic violence, domestic disputes, trigger warnings for murder, obviously. All the things. This is a brutal case, and many of you may already know a lot about this case since it is so recent. But I'm going to get right into it. Born on October 2nd of 2001, Bianca Michelle Devins lived in Utica, New York with her mother, Kim, and her sister, Olivia. During the summer of 2019, Bianca was a 17-year-old who recently graduated from Thomas R. Proctor High School. She was planning to study psychology at a community college in the fall. Since Bianca had struggled with her own mental health issues for many years, she really wanted to continue her education in hopes that she would be able to help people who had had the same issues as she did. Bianca began seeing a therapist when she was only 9 years old. She was suffering from separation anxiety and did not want to go to school. She preferred to just stay home with her mother. At the age of 13, Bianca began showing signs of depression. She was eventually diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder as well as borderline personality disorder. This was an illness that caused Bianca's varying mood swings, and it often also affected her self-image. But luckily, Bianca was very self-aware, and she always knew when it was time to reach out for help. Bianca sought treatment and was hospitalized for long periods during that time, and it really did seem to help. According to her mother, Kim, Bianca was doing much, much better, and she was full of life by the summer of 2019. Despite her problems, Bianca was described as a beautiful person both inside and out. She had a heartwarming smile. Kim said that even in her deepest, darkest, lowest points, Bianca somehow managed to help so many other people. Bianca was always so excited about her plans for the future, and she couldn't wait for her studies to start at the Mohawk Valley Community College in the fall. Bianca had also done some work as a model, and she was very active on social media, where she was known as an e-girl. I had no idea what an e-girl meant. So when I started researching this case, I had to look it up, and I found out that an e-girl is a female who frequently posted photos on social media featuring emo fashion. Bianca loved switching up her look often, and she often experimented with different hair colors, different wigs, as well as dramatic makeup. While many sources have incorrectly stated that Bianca was a famous influencer or internet personality with a large following, in reality, she only had about 2,500 followers by June of 2019. According to her friends, which, by the way, many of whom had never even met Bianca in real life, Bianca was also part of gaming and other online communities, such as gamer Discord chats and 4chan. On Discord, Bianca had her own server where she and her friends often discussed true crime. They talked about cryptozoology, and they dished about their daily plans, what they were doing that day. And for someone who often felt anxious and awkward when dealing with people face to face, online communities were a refuge. On the internet, Bianca was able to be whatever she wanted to be, and her creativity constantly shone brightly. She often sent funny homemade videos to her friends, and she posted artistic selfies with quirky little compositions and comments. Her active online presence, as well as her very striking looks, attracted a number of male followers, of course, and the male followers there were called orbiters. So, I had no idea what this was either because I'm apparently old as fuck. But orbiters are men who follow a girl on social media if they think she is attractive. They continue orbiting them online, but never actually get close to them. There was, however, one guy that did capture Bianca's attention. He was a 21-year-old Lyft driver, and his name was Brandon Clark. The two initially connected on Instagram in May of 2019, and then they began to chat on Discord as well. Bianca and Brandon soon realized that they lived only a half an hour away from each other, and they decided it was going to be fun if they got a chance to meet in real life. But Bianca had agreed to let her mother, Kim, speak with Brandon first. Bianca brought Brandon to their Utica home one night, and to Kim, he seemed like a nice guy. She found him very polite. He was goofy, nerdy, pretty much just the boy next door type of guy. After that, Brandon started coming over to the Devins home regularly. He was always friendly, and he spent a lot of time talking with all of Bianca's family members. Bianca had told her mother that she had no intentions of having any kind of serious relationship since she was leaving for college soon. Kim felt that it was quite clear that Brandon did want more from Bianca, but Bianca assured her family that everything between the two of them was working out fine and that Brandon understood that they were not officially dating. Bianca celebrated her high school graduation in June of 2019 wearing a cap and gown that she had decorated herself with pink roses and glitter. Among her guests was Brandon, who at that time was acting a bit strangely. Every time he introduced himself to someone new, Brandon referred to himself as Bianca's boyfriend, even though Bianca corrected him over and over and over and over again. For Bianca, her relationship with Brandon was just a friends with benefits type of scenario, and she did not want to be called his girlfriend. But while Brandon had previously seemed to be okay with the situation, one of Kim's friends by the name of Cody noticed anger on Brandon's face at Bianca's graduation party. On Saturday, July 13th, just 2 weeks after her graduation, Bianca was headed to New York City to see one of her favorite singers, and this singer's name was Nicole Dollanganger. Her music dealt with dark topics such as self-harm as well as depression. Bianca initially invited many of her friends to come with her, but in the end, she went only with Brandon. Bianca's mother was actually relieved to hear that her daughter was going with a person she knew and she trusted. So when the two of them took off to the concert that was held at a very small venue in Queens, Kim wasn't concerned in the least. She had watched Bianca twirling and bouncing around the living room, trying on different outfits and asking her mom for feedback. Finally, Bianca settled on wearing a black tank top, a black and white plaid skirt, black and white Vans, and a black velvet mini backpack. And it sounds like she's got some great style and has great favorite color of black, because my favorite color is black. But before she left, she hugged her mom, and Bianca told her mom that she loved her. Kim was sure Bianca was going to be all right and return home safely soon enough. Super sad. But unfortunately, of course, her daughter would never come home again. Bianca and Brandon arrived in New York City at 6:30 p.m. They enjoyed the concert, and then they left the city at 11:30 p.m., arriving back in Utica around 3:30 a.m. And within those 9 hours, something went terribly wrong. Before I continue on with this story, I would love the opportunity to share with you all another amazing new true crime podcast that I enjoy listening to. It has two hosts by the name of Courtney and Michelle. I've been loving every single episode of theirs that I listen to. They've got great personalities, great banter, and let me share the trailer with you now.
Hi, creeps and freaks.
Creepies and freakies.
I'm Michelle.
And I'm Courtney.
And we are In the Nick of Crime. We come to you weekly with true crime, some spooks,
and a little bit of comedy.
We focus on being a voice for victims,
but we also like to rake the offenders through the coals.
We can never really seem to take ourselves too seriously, but we do hope you'll join us.
So keep it creepy and stay freaky.
And we will see you next Tuesday. Bye!
In the early morning hours, friends of Bianca's logged into their group chat on Discord to see what they had missed overnight. There, posted at 6:03 a.m., was a photo of a girl who kind of looked like Bianca, but it was a little hard to say for sure since the person in the picture was obviously deceased. Her head seemed to be almost decapitated. There was blood everywhere, and her half-open eyes stared blankly off in the distance. The gruesome picture was accompanied by a message. "Sorry, fuckers, you're going to have to find someone else to orbit." This was posted under the username Apparitia, which everyone knew was the username associated with Brandon Clark. At first, everyone thought it had to be some like sick kind of cruel prank. Brandon would never hurt Bianca. In addition, it is pretty uncommon for people to post disturbing images on Discord, but Brandon did it often anyways just to get a reaction from people. So everyone knew there was a huge possibility that the photo of Bianca was just a fake. Unfortunately, it soon became evident that it was not fake. Brandon went on to post more pictures on Instagram, including one of Bianca's body. And from there, oh my gosh, these photos spread across the social media platform like wildfire. The photos prompted calls from around the country as people reported the pictures to the police department, saying it seemed like somebody had hurt a girl named Bianca Devins. They did not know if the photo was real or not, but one thing for sure, Bianca needed to be found immediately. Not long after this, police were knocking on the Devins' family's door. They did not show the horrific picture of Bianca to her mother, Kim, but they did inform her that they feared her daughter might be in danger. And Kim was confused. Bianca had sent her a message the night before letting her know that she was on her way home, but Kim did not know exactly where Bianca was at that time. So Kim tried calling Bianca, but the calls were going straight to voicemail. While waiting for answers to what was going on, police dispatch received a call. And on the line was Brandon Clark. He said, "My name is Brandon. The victim is Bianca Michelle Devins. I'm going to kill myself." The officers present at Bianca's family home heard that someone named Brandon had just called and said that he had hurt the teenage girl. They asked Kim if Brandon was Bianca's boyfriend or ex, but, she told them that he was neither. Brandon was supposedly just a very good friend of Bianca's, nothing more, nothing less. It didn't make any sense to Kim that he would have harmed Bianca. Why? Brandon did not tell the 911 dispatcher where he was at. So they they tried to keep him on the line as long as possible so that they could ping his phone and, find his location. So the dispatcher said, "Just stay on the line with me, okay?" And then Brandon said, "No, I'm not going to stay on the line with you. I'm going to be dead on the ground." But before he hung up, Brandon finally said that they would find him at a dead-end road just 10 minutes away from Bianca's home. Meanwhile, Kim's friend and housemate, Kaylee Rimmer, had heard that there was a picture of a girl's deceased body spreading around social media. She began searching Instagram, and it did not take her long to find a post that showed a bloodied body from the neck down with the caption, "I'm sorry, Bianca." A moment later, someone sent that grisly photo to a friend of Bianca's sister, Olivia, who was also present at the family home during that time. Olivia screamed when she saw the photo. Kim could no longer look at her phone. She had started to receive notifications of people sending her the photos of Bianca, and of course she did not want to see them. If her daughter was really gone, Kim did not want her last happy memory of Bianca to be ruined. Why the fuck would people send those pictures to anyone? To anyone, like any fucking person, much less the victim's mother. I mean, it's fucking beyond me. And these people are fucking disgusting, quite frankly. When the detectives finally located Brandon, he was standing outside of his car, still armed with a knife. While they pointed their guns at him, the officers shouted to him, "Where's the girl? Where is she?" Without giving an answer, Brandon raised the knife on his neck and he cut his own throat. Immediately afterwards, he fell upon a green tarp he had previously placed on the ground. And this motherfucking loser managed to somehow take a selfie and post it quickly online with the caption, "Ashes to ashes." I have no fucking idea how he managed to do all that before the police got to him, but when they did, they knew that they had to get their bleeding suspect to the hospital or they might never get the answers to what had happened and why it had happened. They had a brief struggle with Brandon before they were able to disarm him, and then he was placed under arrest and wheeled out to a waiting ambulance. While Brandon was rushed to the hospital, the detectives investigated the crime scene. There, they found a cryptic message Brandon had spray painted on the ground. It said, "May you never forget me." And this is super sad. Underneath that green tarp, they made the heartbreaking discovery. They found a young woman's body. It was Bianca Devins. Her family was immediately notified, but of course, they already knew. They had not wanted to accept it, but they had seen the pictures that were being sent to them, and they had seen the pictures that were all over social media. Soon after getting the confirmation that Bianca was dead, her younger sister, Olivia, posted the following tribute on Instagram. Quote, "I hate that I have to write this. I hate knowing you're not going to ever come back home. You were the best sister anyone could have ever asked for. Thank you for always being there for me. Thank you for being the best sister I could ever imagine. Thank you for always protecting me and sticking up for me. I am going to do this for you. Every day I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to get through this thing called life and do it all for you. Rest easy. I love you so much, forever and always." Unquote. It's so sad. In addition, a family friend wrote this, quote, "I got sick to my stomach and the picture scared me. But all I can think is how beautiful and full of life she was and how bubbly and caring she was. She was an amazing person and still is, regardless of what happened. And I will always remember her for that. So thank you, Bianca. Rest in peace." Unquote. But while Bianca's loved ones were grieving, the internet was responding with morbid glee. Some were making memes out of the images, turning them into jokes. More vicious online trolls were sending them to family members with horrible messages, blaming Bianca for what happened to her. Kim commented on the situation saying, quote, "It's horrifying. It's traumatizing to see people saying that your daughter, this is my baby, that she deserved such a cruel end to her life," unquote. The Canadian singer, Nicole Dollanganger, whom Bianca had gone to see that night in New York City, also posted this on Twitter. "What happened to this beautiful angel was evil, cruel, and senseless. While I know some of you are very well-intentioned, I ask that you please stop sharing the horrific content her murderer distributed. Please stop sending them to me." Behavioral science Stephen Cremondo believes the individuals most likely responsible for harassing Bianca's family and others involved in the case belong to an online community of men called incels. Incel is short for involuntary celibate. The term is used for men who have gone 6 months or longer without any sort of sexual activity, but not voluntarily. Incels have their own forums online where the discussion often includes resentment and hatred, self-pity, and self-loathing. Incels see themselves as victims, thinking they are somehow entitled to sex, and sometimes even encourage violence against women and people who are sexually active. Sounds like a bunch of stupid motherfuckers, if you ask me. Anyway, at least 8 mass murders have been committed since 2014 by people who either identified themselves as incel or had mentioned something related to the online subculture prior to the crime. Just last year, in August of 2021, there was a 22-year-old by the name of Jake Davison. He killed 5 people and then he killed himself in a mass shooting in Plymouth, England. He had used incel forums on Reddit to express all of his hateful views. Another well-known case is the Isla Vista killings in California in May of 2014. In that situation, 22-year-old Elliot Rodger killed 6 people and he injured 14 others. His frustration over his inability to find a girlfriend, his hatred of women, and his contempt for couples drove him to commit a crime described as an act of misogynist terrorism. And yet, many individuals within the incel community have idolized this motherfucker and have seen him as their hero. Something similar was now going on after the news of Bianca's death spread. It's just so fucking disturbing that there's these dumbass motherfuckers out there. And if any of you dumbass motherfuckers are listening to this podcast episode because it's about Bianca Devins and you think that you can just revel in her death and celebrate or whatever, fuck y'all. Like, you guys are fucking, like, you guys need to eat a bag of dicks. That's what you need to do. But anyways, although I'm so mad. Anyways, although Brandon Clark did not identify as an incel, he was celebrated for what he did to Bianca. And these people sent messages to Kim and Bianca's other family members, and they wrote online that Brandon had basically done the world a favor by killing Bianca. The response to Bianca's murder by the incel community definitely serves as a wake-up call for young women about the dangers of the online world. Bianca's friend Elizabeth said, quote, "You know, those same incel communities that were praising Brandon's actions were saying, 'Oh, I wonder who's going to be next. I can't wait for the next victim,' or, you know, or the next girl to be killed," unquote. Soon, more people joined the discussion, and the hashtag RIP Bianca began trending. There was a user on Twitter by the username Yup May said, "Tragedies like this are the exact reason why girls are afraid to reject guys. They fear his reaction. They fear losing their life due to a man's inability to handle rejection. So he lashes out. Stop fucking taking our lives because we said no. We have every right to say no. Hashtag rest in peace, Bianca." Fortunately, there were also those who wanted to help Bianca's family in the horrible situation they found themselves in. As the social media companies were responding extremely slowly to people's pleas to delete the violent pictures, some online users began a campaign that flooded the hashtag connected with the images by publishing photos of pink skies, rainbows, and fan art of Bianca's to help drive down the death images in search results. Still, it took a long time for Instagram to disable Brandon's account and to remove the very graphic pictures of Bianca's corpse. Now, I do want to say that although the only photo on Instagram, because of course I had to be like gross and search, I found a bunch of those pictures of the skies and the rainbows and the fan art, and that was like so delightful for me to see. There's also some weird ass, I'm just gonna call her a bitch. There's some weird ass bitch that thought it was cool to recreate the death photo with makeup. So that's out there. I don't know why. I don't know why somebody would think that's a cool thing to do. It just honestly made me ill. And if that was my daughter or somebody that I knew that did that, I would smack the shit out of them and tell them how fucking cruel and ridiculous they are. And a bunch of other things. But anyways, that's all I'm going to say here. But on the internet, if you Google search this, yeah, it's her death photo is still out there, and it's devastatingly heartbreaking. So, I don't advise going to search for it. I wish I could unsee it. It was bad. I feel terrible that Bianca's mom, Kim, had to see it, and people were sending it to her. And, Bianca was born in 1991, and that's the same year my oldest daughter was born. And, like, I just cannot imagine if something like that happened to one of my girls. And, people started all this fucking sharing the photos online and social media and sending it to my phone. Like, I can't believe that there's people like that on this earth. But thankfully there were people that were, helping to drive down the images. So those type of people are amazing. So meanwhile, the police began their investigation. They Googled the phrase Brandon had written on the ground at the crime scene. Remember, may you never forget me? And they found out that it was actually from a series of Japanese comic books called Pun Pun. Brandon and Bianca had often read these comic books together. They're violent and dark, and they're essentially telling a Japanese version of the story Romeo and Juliet. In addition to the Pun Pun reference, Brandon also left a message at the crime scene through music. He had used a Bluetooth speaker, and he programmed his cell phone to play a particular song on repeat. It was the song called Test Drive by Joji, and I have no idea what that song is. I chose not to go listen to it. Some of you may know the song. I have no clue. But the song uses driving as a metaphor to describe a failing relationship, as the protagonist looks for something long-term while his female partner is not as invested as he is. So it was quite clear what Brandon, was trying to say. In hopes of finding out what had gone wrong during their trip to New York City, the police took a closer look at Brandon and Bianca's social media accounts. Soon they learned that the two were not alone at the concert. Instead, they were accompanied by another guy, a guy by the name of Alex. Apparently, Bianca had invited him to join them, but at the same time, she was also concerned that Brandon might get jealous. Alex later told the police it had really seemed like Brandon did not want him to be there. On top of that, a text message from Bianca to Alex after she had left the concert with Brandon revealed that there had been an incident that might have given the young man the final push over the fucking edge. Bianca wrote, "I think he saw me kiss you." Bianca also reportedly exchanged DMs with another friend that night. They were timestamped just 2 hours before Bianca's death. In those messages, Bianca wrote that Brandon was, quote, so mad. As they were driving back to Utica, Brandon ominously posted a photo of what appears to be the New York State Thruway. On that post, he wrote, "Here comes hell. It's redemption, right?" He also changed his Instagram bio to read 10/6/1997 to 7/14/2019. But that was not all. As Brandon's cell phone was investigated, the police found something terrifying. In addition to the photos, there was a video. In that footage, Bianca is seen sleeping in the back seat of Brandon's car before he wakes her up to talk about the incident he had witnessed earlier. Brandon tells Bianca in the video that he saw her kissing Alex. Bianca then apologizes in the video, but reminds Brandon that they are not in a monogamous relationship, and again made it clear that they were not a couple. Bianca's apology seems to make Brandon even angrier as he proceeds in the video to tell her that her answer was not good enough. He is then seen striking Bianca, who threatens to get out of the car and walk home. But the next second, Brandon has a knife in his hand that he had been keeping hidden, behind the seat. So Bianca never saw it coming. She had no chance of defending herself. Brandon attacked Bianca in the video viciously, and he sliced her neck so deeply that she most likely died within seconds. And that's like the only good thing about this, that, she probably didn't suffer. We don't know for sure, but, I guess there's that. Afterwards, in the video, Brandon screamed to the camera, "Bianca, why did you make me do this?" Oh my gosh. After he finished filming the horrific video, Brandon took the graphic photos he posted to Discord and Instagram. But even though Brandon exploited social media to gain attention to himself and stirred widespread outrage, the executive vice president at the United States National Network to End Domestic Violence had a message. Everyone was reminded that Bianca's tragedy was less about social media and more about how male entitlement and toxic masculinity increasingly continued to fuel violence against girls and women. He said, "This is not an Instagram story. This is a story about dating violence and homicide. It's about power and control, about a man who felt entitled to take a girl's life and emboldened to post photos of it on a gaming platform. People who control their partners don't care if they meet online or in college. They were dating and he killed her. My guess is they were fighting. He was trying to exert control and she was resisting control." Hang on a second, guys. All right, sorry, guys. I just had to hit the pause button for a minute so I could collect myself. I'm triggering myself big time. So anyways, let me go on. Evelyn Stratmone was part of a 2018 study that found some men showed aggression when their romantic advances were rejected. She said that part of masculinity is connected to one's social status. If something threatens it or is lowered somehow, a man may try and regain it. So in this case, it was not good enough for Brandon to simply kill the person he wanted to be with, but could not. Instead, he needed to record the act and show everybody what he had done. It was all about control. It was all about his masculinity. He had to feel like he was a man by posting all of that disgusting stuff. During the investigation, it was discovered that Brandon did not have the best possible role model growing up. So I'm going to tell you, some things that happened in Brandon's background. It's not in any way going to excuse what a fucking see you next Tuesday douchebag he is. But it may, give you some insight onto why his personality was, how it was. In 2010, just 9 years before he murdered Bianca, Brandon's father, Jason, held his wife, Michelle, hostage for 10 hours. He held her at knife point and threatened to slit her throat and kill himself. For one reason or another, Jason had got an idea in his head that Michelle was cheating on him, which had not even been the case, but he attacked her anyway. The hostage situation started at 512 Cayuga Street in Fulton on January 4th of 2010. Michelle's mother lived with the couple and tried to call 911, but Jason ripped the phone cord out of the wall. The authorities eventually found out what was going on and they arrived at the scene. Jason made Michelle call out to police that she was a hostage while he held a black-handled kitchen knife to her throat. After 10 long hours, police stormed the house and arrested Jason. He was charged with felony assault, criminal possession of a weapon, unlawful imprisonment, and aggravated criminal contempt, as well as misdemeanor menacing and obstructing governmental administration. That's a lot of stuff. He was sentenced to only 2 years in prison. 2 fucking years for all that in a plea agreement, which, I understand plea agreements are necessary sometimes, but this is crazy. The court records do not mention whether or not Brandon, who had been only 12 years old at the time of this incident, was present during the attack or not. But either way, Brandon was surely aware of his father's hostile treatment of women. So to have that happen, to have that be your dad, boys look up to their fathers. So it's no wonder that Brandon, did end up being the fucking asshole, that he is. He's a fucking asshole just like his dad. The apple doesn't fall too far from the asshole tree, But anyways, investigators discovered more evidence from Brandon's phone. And this evidence suggested that Brandon had actually planned to kill Bianca. Events that took place at the concert were definitely the final straw, but Brandon had thought about taking Bianca's life even before Bianca ever kissed Alex. In the Notes app on Brandon's phone, Brandon had a sinister checklist of things he needed to do to carry out the murder and stage the crime scene, including set up speaker and last song with a question mark. Brandon had also Googled things like how to choke someone out. How do you hit the carotid... I can't even say the word. How do you hit the carotid artery? I don't even know why I got tongue-tied on that. My brain just went, bloop, I have no brain. Or my skull. I'm brainless. Oh, okay, I missed lobotomy today. Anyways, how do you hit the carotid artery to kill someone? Obviously, I'm an unedited podcast because I'm just going to keep that in there and you guys can all see how ridiculous I am sometimes. Anyways, Brandon knew exactly what he was doing. So that's kind of like what I want to make sure you guys all understand. Like, he was planning on killing her, regardless of whether she kissed Alex or if she didn't kiss Alex. Bianca's death had not been a crime of passion, but it was fucking premeditated murder. It seemed like after Brandon had realized he was never going to be in a relationship with Bianca, he had decided to kill her. If he could not have her, nobody could have her. 2 weeks later, fucking Brandon Clark, who had survived his suicide attempt, was charged with second-degree murder. Yay. He pleaded not guilty, though. At this point, Brandon's defense was considering an extreme emotional disturbance strategy. So, extreme emotional disturbance strategy. EED is a murder charge defense, which is specific to New York State. So this is based, so when I did some research on what it is, it's based on the idea that the defendant had suffered a profound loss of self-control due to extreme emotional disturbance, whether it's sadness, anger, fear, or any other emotion. So there has to be a reasonable explanation for why the person suffered this extreme emotion. One example of this situation would be someone walking in on their partner in bed with somebody else and, reacting immediately. If a person is found to have committed murder under an EED, they would be found not guilty of murder, but instead they would be guilty of manslaughter. However, this kind of defense does not work if there are signs of a cooling down period or any kind of premeditation, as there clearly was in Brandon's case with those notes on his phone. Nevertheless, prosecutors began their preparations for trial with one goal in mind. The prosecutor is quoted as saying, "We need justice for Bianca, and we need to make sure that Brandon Clark can never hurt anyone else again. That's what our job is." And that was what Bianca's family wanted too. But at the same time, they were scared. They feared the murder video would be played in court. Even though the video was a crucial part of evidence against Brandon, Kim said that she did not want to be forced to watch the footage, and who could really blame her? My last memory of Bianca is her full of life, so excited. So to have to see her in her last moments, how she was brutally murdered, is absolutely traumatizing and something no one should ever have to see. And especially not a mother, Fortunately, shortly before his trial began in February of 2020, Brandon changed his mind and he pled guilty to Bianca's murder, claiming he felt remorse. This is what he said. "I know that sorry is not enough. I know it won't take back what I did." Brandon also said that he chose to plead guilty to spare the family from hearing and seeing the details of Bianca's death. However, Kim did not buy this explanation. Her suspicions were confirmed when Brandon was back in court just 5 months after pleading guilty, trying to change his fucking plea back to not guilty. So it was obvious he did not care a single bit about the Devins family's feelings. Kim suspected her daughter's murderer had changed his mind simply because he wanted to be able to tell his side of the story, especially because media and production companies had started to show interest in the case. And no matter what the real reason was, Brandon still claimed his former lawyer, Luke Niebusch, who was a well-respected local public defender, had not visited him enough in prison and had actually pushed him to plead guilty. However, Niebusch said that none of Brandon's claims were true. Instead, he had encouraged his former client to plead not guilty, and he had visited him regularly. He had said that he had gone to the Oneida jail 15 times prior to the plea, and that there were moments where he spent 4 or 5 hours with him at a time. There were moments where he probably spent 2 hours. So, he figured that there was an average of 3 hours per visit. In the end, the judge denied Brandon's request to withdraw his guilty plea. And finally, on March 16th of 2021, which was almost 2 years after Bianca's murder, Brandon was brought in to be sentenced. Bianca's grandfather, Frank Williams, was present at the hearing, and he gave his final words to the murderer. He said, "Brandon, for the cruel manner in which you took my granddaughter's life, for the total disregard you had for a human life, for the callous act in which you posted pictures of her murdered body on social media to gratify your own selfish purposes, you, Brandon, deserve to spend the rest of your life in prison." Before hearing his sentence, Brandon gave a statement. He said, "I hate myself for what I did. I am so sorry that I put everyone through this. I am so sorry that I put Bianca through this. I wish I could apologize to her and just apologize and take it back, but..." Not a single person in Bianca's family felt that the apology was sincere, though, nor did the judge, who sentenced Brandon Clark to the maximum sentence for murdering Bianca. He got 25 years to life. The family of Bianca was relieved. They knew that at least now Brandon was going to be behind bars for a very, very long time. And yet, there is the possibility that Brandon Clark will be eligible for parole when he is in his late 40s in the year 2044. So this fight may very well continue in the future. But before that happens, Bianca's family wanted to turn their grief into something good. They started by calling for increased action to be taken by social media companies regarding graphic content. On September 21st, 2020, Bianca's family, together with Congressman Anthony Brindisi, introduced what was called Bianca's Law. And I'm pleased to tell you all that it passed in the New York Senate in just June of this year, June of 2022. I'm so happy about this, guys. This legislation requires that all social media platforms with more than 10 million in revenue and more than 100,000 monthly users, they have to establish an office dedicated to identifying and removing violent and graphic content. It also empowers the state attorneys general as well as the Federal Trade Commission to enforce these requirements and impose penalties on the social media companies if they fail. Bianca's loved ones do not want any other family to ever have to go through the same horror they experienced. They hope preventing death photos like Bianca's from being put on social media will be more efficient in the future. The family does not want Bianca to only be remembered for her death photos and videos. And for that reason, in 2021, the very awesome and fucking badass Kim Devins filed a lawsuit accusing officials of sharing sex and murder videos with the media. Kim said that explicit footage recorded by her daughter's killer was given to documentary makers and a YouTube blogger in response to a Freedom of Information request. According to this lawsuit, Kim was shattered to learn the videos were shared, and she feared the material would also go viral online like it had happened with the images. The lawyer named Carrie Goldberg, who was representing Kim, said, quote, "This has been emotionally devastating and fatiguing. The family has not had a day of peace since Bianca died over 2 years ago. It hurts my heart and confuses my brain that a 17-year-old murder victim would be further abused by authorities who gave no damn about her privacy. Bianca will be vindicated here," unquote. While waiting for the results of the lawsuit, Kim and other family members of Bianca's keep fighting for her the way Bianca always fought for them. In the darkest days of Bianca's struggles with her mental health, Kim told her daughter to stay strong, if not for herself, then for her mother and for her family. Kim was quoted as saying, "Bianca promised she'd never leave me, and she kept that promise. She has always kept that promise." Bianca's family has also established a scholarship in Bianca's name for students pursuing psychology degrees. In their statement, the family said they hope to continue Bianca's dream and to help adolescents with mental illness. The scholarship fund was set up through the Community Foundation of Herkimer and Oneida counties. I'm sorry if I said that first county wrong. But yeah, that's great. So when asked how she wants her daughter to be remembered, Kim Devins said, "I want Bianca to be remembered for her smile, for her bright spirit, for her huge caring heart. Bianca always wanted to help someone. Even in her worst struggles, when she couldn't help herself, she helped others." And Bianca's grandfather added, quote, "And she will never, ever be forgotten." Rest in peace, Bianca Devins. And that's it, guys. So I'm going to recommend that if you have a couple of extra dollars in your bank account that you could send to, the scholarship fund, that would be amazing. I'm going to look into it. I have to see what it's called. I'm going to try to post it in the notes. So, whatever platform you're listening, I was going to say watching, whatever platform you're listening to this on, if you look in the notes, I'm going to link the case sources and everything. I'm sure it's going to be pretty easy to find. I didn't put it in my notes here, what it's actually called. But I will link that foundation, the Scholarship Foundation, in the notes. So please, if you have whatever amount of money that you can afford to donate, I would be so happy and, so completely, I would feel blessed if you did that, because you heard of this case on my podcast, because I'm really focused on, advocating for victims. I know I always say this, but it's true. I know we have to talk about the fucking assholes that commit the crimes and the murders and everything else. And I'm trying to be really, really careful not to, seem like I'm going to glorify these motherfuckers. So if anything more, if any good can come of me, publishing this podcast episode about this poor girl that was murdered, I would like to help in any way that I can. So please, 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 any amount that you can afford. I mean, that just makes me so happy. In the middle, when I was being triggered, I was being triggered by a few different things, because I am a person, that has experienced domestic violence. I think I've mentioned it in the past a little bit, here and there. I'm not going to discuss my incidents of domestic violence in my relationships that I've had in the past. But I also experienced there was a stalker. I don't even know. I guess he was a stalker. I experienced something, and I think I'm going to share a mini episode with you guys. I need to put some notes and some thoughts together on it so that I can completely tell you the story. And then hopefully I'll be triggered while I'm writing up the notes and not while I'm doing the episode or telling you guys about what had happened. but something did happen to me here. I live in Pensacola, Florida, and, something did happen to me at a job, that I had here. And it was about 8 or 9 years ago now, but the person went on to murder his mother on Mother's Day. So give me a little bit of time. This is Thursday before the episode releases. So hopefully I'll have some time over the weekend to record it, and you guys could maybe get it a day or two following this episode release. I definitely don't want to make you have to wait an entire week, and I don't want it to be just a regular episode, because honestly it's just going to be a shorter story, and I don't feel like Bianca Devins deserves for me to kind of tell the story quickly at the end of her story, because I just want to celebrate her and her awesome family and, what they're advocating for separately. So, I hope you'll listen to this. I hope you'll listen to my little mini story. If you have ever experienced domestic violence, I'm sorry. Stay strong. I hope that you continue to thrive. If you are in a domestic violent situation right now, please reach out to someone, anyone that you trust. I know it's difficult. I myself hid it for a long period of time. I would put somebody in jail, and I would even go bail them out, so I understand how difficult it is. But please know that it's not going to change, and your life is important. You are important. You're important to me. So please get some help. Find someone you trust. If you even just need to talk about it, please feel free to email me or reach out to me on social media. Y'all know I'm on Instagram. Reach out anytime. Okay? I love you all. And until next time, keep talking crime.